Hello, Modern Jeepers. Matt. Jeeps, Jeeping, and Jeepers. Jessy is off visiting family, so this week it is just me and Corey burning up the proverbial airwaves. We talk about the vibrance of Tillamook, trail filters, weather on the trail, being overweight, the rig, not you, Milestar's XPDN 4, and being a good steward of the trails. We also review our next contest. Get ready, it starts next week. By the way, if you like this episode, we would truly appreciate it if you'd hit that subscribe button and share it with your friends. As always, we are extremely grateful to our supporters and friends, including Warn Winches, Bestop, Milestar Tires, Raceline Wheels, Rugged Radios, Adventure Rack Systems, and of course, MetalCloak. So sit back, relax to the cold one, enjoy episode number 175 of the Modern Jeeper Show.
The Modern Jeeper Show, the show about Jeeps, Jeeping, and Jeepers.
Well, hey, Modern Jeepers, this is another episode of the Modern Jeeper Show with me, Matson from MetalCloak, and Mr. Modern Jeeper Corey Osborne.
Hey, buddy.
Hey, where's Rockstar Jeep Girl?
She is. She just left yesterday morning. She went down to see her grandbaby down in Oklahoma. So, her daughter is looking to move in with her other daughter down in San Antonio. So yeah, Jessy's feeling a little. She's missing her grandbaby, missing her daughter. So, it was her daughter's birthday this past weekend. So she left yesterday, went down to Oklahoma, gonna spend 4 or 5 days with her grandbaby, because San Antonio is a little bit out of our way always. Like we're never kind of in that part of Texas unless it's rare and we're on a different tour, but
Sure.
we don't get down there very often. So she took a few days to head back and spend some time with her grandbaby.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Well, you guys have had quite the adventure. I mean,
Oh.
I don't know how much can you talk about your post Tillamook adventure.
Oh my goodness. There's been so much that has happened in the last, I don't know. I'm still catching up. We're still I had this realization that I keep all these photos and I'm going to somehow, I don't know, release them specifically at certain times and share with everyone our experiences on our adventures and all of these Jeep events. And the reality of it is all these events run into each other back to back to back to back to, and
Right.
and I never get caught up. And then so you were a part of it, Matson, as when I kind of was like, wait a minute, we have a Modern Jeeper Adventures group on Facebook. Like, where should those pictures live? Well, they should actually live on Modern Jeeper Adventures. Man, I'm just silenced a call from Rugged Radio's Greg Cottrell. So for
Sorry,
everyone
Greg.
that
Priorities.
sorry, Greg, I'll call you back. So Modern Jeeper Adventures Facebook page group now I think is a good way for us to share individual images. Other people can add to those albums that we create.
And that was cool. I had no idea you could do that. I mean, what a perfect solution, because we keep going through and it's like, let's do drop boxes. Well, it doesn't really do any good. Fiverr back in the day was good, but this is awesome because you can actually drop them all in there. Other people can add to that album to remember the group. That's perfect. A perfect solution.
And I think my initial fear was that, not everybody has a Facebook page but this is a public group. So I think even without, I don't know, you may need to have a Facebook account, but really in this day and age, if you don't have a Facebook account, well, how are you keeping up with stuff anyway? You don't have to opt into all of its drama and everything else. But you can go in there and I watermark all of our images because there's some stuff that's pretty awesome. But if somebody were to reach out to us and say, hey, I love this picture of my rig. Can you send me the original that's not watermarked? Absolutely. But you have to reach out to us to do that. So
Sure.
yeah, I mean, I've done this just with the last two events with Moab and Tillamook. We're not even talking about the Milestar expedition event that happened after Tillamook.
Right.
Now I'm thinking, well, wait, I should probably go back to Death Valley to other events and probably create albums for those. And so yeah,
That's awesome.
it's
Well,
been
so you
busy.
guys, you
We've
want to
been
go
put
out there, you want to see what we do, check out these albums, Modern Jeeper Adventure group on Facebook. Now, did we originally started that as kind of a private group, but it's a public group now, is it? Like,
it
do
is
you
a
have to
public
request to be
group.
entered? Do you have to request to be entered? I don't even remember. It's been so long.
I don't think so. I think you can just join the group. There are no questions now. I'm going to preface that with saying we may change that depending on how this goes.
Right.
We initially started the page or the group with people that had been on our adventures.
Right.
Now, other people can post to that group and have done so in the past, and I think it's a good community sharing place. It's a good group of people. Should that change? Yeah, you never know. We may need to lock it down a little bit, and we'll see. We'll see.
Well, and I remember when we first had it in, and you those who were in it could actually invite others. And there was some guy, I
Right.
forget who he was, but he's like from back east someplace, and he has his own event. And all of a sudden, he was just inviting tons and tons and tons of people to join that group. Initially, it was like, oh, cool, he's inviting a few people. All of a sudden, like he kept inviting people to it. And then he started promoting his event within that group. It's like, yeah, that's not really the intention, guys. So, it's like anything. It's like any group or organization. We don't have the time to be Nazi monitors. So you have to, depend a lot on the group itself, monitoring itself. So yeah, just go over there and ModernJeeper Adventures, get to see what we do.
That's right.
And speaking of ModernJeeper Adventure, obviously the one adventure I've been on so far this year was Tillamook. And yes, some of you may have heard of some of you listening and paying attention to my mornings with Matsonian, which you can find on Instagram. Sometime every morning as I'm driving into work, I will get on there, and my time varies, so the live posts vary. But my RV that I drove up into to Lincoln City with had been sitting for a year, and the one that we talked about being rat infested from a couple episodes ago ended up not starting when I needed it to go to Tillamook, because that's what I do. You take it to Lincoln City, hangs out in front of the house. Then I go over to Tillamook and join Corey and Jessy out there and have the RV as my base of operations. Well, it turns out that it wouldn't start. So I had to all of a sudden stay in the hotel. So I'm the hotel guy. Hey, staying in a hotel where everybody else is camping and being cool and camping. I stayed in the hotel, but I got a lot of work done, and that kind of all worked out. I was able to get a podcast up and live, which you guys haven't checked that out. Check out episode 173, I think, is a visit to the Tillamook Air Museum, which is just a cool thing. The diorama, all the different stuff they have going on there. It's a cool place. So check that out. But I got that episode up, got back, ended up getting back. We did Tillamook. Now, Tillamook was awesome. It was absolutely awesome. We did, because the weather was perfect. I mean, we've talked about sand. We've done sand. Obviously, wheeling sand is amazing. But day 2, that Saturday, going up and be able to do Firebreak 5. And what were some of the other trails we did?
So the 2 Jeep Badge of Honor trails are Firebreak 5 and Cedar Tree. And for our listeners, and even for the locals out there, any time of year on the Pacific Northwest side, you can have fog, you can have rain. It can be 110 degrees, and it can be 50 degrees. The variations swing so wide. And of course, last year we couldn't even go into the forest because of the wildfires. So yeah, this year was extra special, and it being an extra special year means Mother Nature said, hey, these guys deserve extra special weather.
Yes, she was very kind to us.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, the forest days of clear skies and very limited clouds with visibility of, we're talking about 20 miles visibility. And even on the beach, when we can see all the way down the shoreline, clear down past Pacific City and see the rocks out in the ocean from Sand Lake, that's extraordinary. And this year we were very, very fortunate.
Yeah, it was beautiful. In fact, it was kind of like it was one of those days where Thursday was kind of like Wednesday was cloudy, cold, a little rainy. Thursday was kind of sort of. Friday was perfect. Saturday was perfect. Sunday started getting cold and foggy
Yep.
again. It was pretty
Yep.
amazing that those 2 days were just absolutely gorgeous, and
Yeah,
the area
it
up there is
waited for
amazing,
us.
amazing.
It waited for us.
It did, and Fire Break 5 is an incredible fun trail. I mean, not only is it beautiful, what I love about wheeling up there, and I've said this before, but is just the beauty, all the green, the ferns, the clover, the trees. When you're going through, and you go and you kind of come out of these areas, then you're all of a sudden you're in a plateau where you can look out around and see the entire region. Then you go back into the trees and you dive down into this beautiful area as well. I know 2019 when we went through, it was wet. It was still wet. In fact, we had that
It was
whole
really wet. Yeah.
we had that whole debate about tires because
Yep.
one guy that was with us who's a big advocate of one tire, and then we had another guy almost exact same vehicles, and which ones were hooking up, especially going up Fire Break 5. And we were pretty blessed with the fact that it was because
were.
it wasn't wet. The rocks weren't wet and slicky and muddy. It
Yeah,
was
a couple years ago, it was more like East Coast wheeling, where
right.
you don't pick a line, you pick a direction, and you just hope for the best. And the mud in Oregon is a lot different than pretty much anywhere in the West. We're so close to sand dunes out there, and so there's this silty clay kind
Mm.
of red dirt. It's funny going back through images, and typically I need to do a lot of color correction, and I'm looking at the images going, wow, I mean, caught out of the camera, that looks pretty good. It looks pretty close. And then I change things just a little bit, and it's like, oh no, it's a very fine line. The colors there are so vibrant in the
Right.
forest with the contrast of the rock, the dirt, and again, I always relate back to our modern Jeeper adventure trips were never meant to be the extreme trip. If somebody comes out and they're looking for, hey, I want to be in 4 low for 2 days, and I want to cover 2 miles, and I want it to be big rocks and hopefully somebody breaks, that isn't the trip that we put on. And spending a day on the beach, I think we all get a little bit complacent and, oh, this is cool. The sand's pretty forgiving. We can get stuck in the sand and it's okay, because we can get you out of sand. 2 days of that, like we did last year, was actually a lot of fun because we spent an entire day playing games and doing stuff that I don't think a lot of people expect.
It's amazing
Hey,
what you can do with a Jeep, sand, and a bunch of hula hoops.
yes, exactly. And it turns out that there's that whole other aspect as to why we all enjoy going off road and doing these adventures and doing these things that we love. And to go into the forest then this year on our second day, I think people kind of wake up and go, oh, because it's a Jeep Badge of Honor trail doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be extremely difficult. Yet there are trails in the Tillamook forest that are.
Right.
In fact, I think in 2019 we did a little bit of a bypass into a trail called Airplane up there, and it's all that in a bag of chips. And even Firebreak 5 has some technical challenges. We happened to be there when it was dry, so we didn't have any recoveries or broken Jeeps, which is our goal, right?
Right.
But we did have a few folks that found out the weaknesses in their Jeeps, and they maybe had to take a different line. A couple even had to take a different bypass. In fact, we took one bypass on an adjoiner trail to Firebreak 5 in the Gladiator, because literally it was so tight that a long wheelbase rig, and Jessy drove all of that trail. I wasn't all about to have, and there was a couple Gladiators with us. She's an amazing driver, and so was this other gal in her Gladiator. but there were some tight spots where, yeah, that's probably not your best option.
Yeah, that was that one where we did that hard left. And then
Yeah.
now for all listeners out there, I didn't have anybody with me most of the time, except for we decided that one of our attendees who was in a car of three would go ahead and ride with me. So I had one of our attendees riding with me the whole time. And of course she wanted to try everything. So I was like, yeah, I don't really need to go down this path. I know I don't need to flex my muscle or anything like that. I know I can do this, and I'll just follow Corey up. And no, do it. So we did it, right? And of course, I made a classic mistake, and this is something that you've just got to know, and you got to learn. You got to know your rig, and you got to know the line for your rig. I made a classic mistake of following the line of the guy in front of me because he did it and he got a little hung up. And I thought, oh, I can just go a little bit left and I'll be fine. And I knew the line was actually to the right. I knew the line was to the right, to hug the hill a little bit, go over the rock a little bit, and you'll be fine and just go around. But no. I had to go to the left because I'm going to fix the line that he took. And I ended up getting hung up there. I ended up having to be guided out, to that because I got hung up on whatever. And, but it's a classic mistake. You know your rig and you know your line. And if you don't know the line, wait until somebody points out a line for you, because don't go just start saying, I'm going to try this one and get all hung up and embarrass yourself.
Well, and that's a good point. That's a challenge of everything today, right? Is back in 15 years ago, we had it made because all the Jeeps typically on a trail were all our same wheelbase. We all ran pretty much the same stuff with a mixed match of different components, but we all knew the general line. And today it's pretty bizarre because you can have a two-door JK, a two-door JL, a Gladiator. I mean, you have all these variations. An LJ, you throw a TJ in there,
right?
Different sizes of tires,
right?
Like all of a sudden, every rig. Oh no! I know you watch the guy in front of you. Don't do that, because that guy's in a completely different wheelbase and it's hard because people go, well, but he went through it, so I should be fine. No, that's not the case.
It's not how it works. We've got amazing attendees with the ModernJeeper Adventures, but you always have, like, all different variations, all different levels of experience, all different levels of egos. I love every one of our attendees, but sometimes we think we know more than we do, or we think we know less than we do. And, you've got to go both directions, right? And so a great attendees. So it was an amazing event. Of course, Debbie D's did our catering, and that was just amazing, good food. And my God, she did that little bacon souffle breakfast thing she did each morning. Between that and the biscuits and gravy, oh my God!
I will say that Debbie D's is. I hope she's still in business in the next few years. But for me, it's always been interesting because we've been challenged up in that area with somebody that can support an event of even our small size and do catering. But I got to give it to her. It's really like having your mom cook you meals, and it is literally home cooked stuff. Like, she made this stuff and she brought it out to serve us, and it's not like here's your big plate or tray of lasagna, everybody take a serving. It's totally hey, look, we made servings for each of you, and that's what you get.
Oh, so, I mean, you get a little cup of fruit, and you got your servings, your food, and your biscuits and gravy. And the biscuits were amazing. I mean, those alone were just by themselves. We made sandwiches, and I took the biscuits and decided to make sandwiches out of my biscuits. There was some extra biscuits. Oh my God, that was fantastic. Now I'm salivating now because I'm hungry. But yeah, so it was good food. It was good times. The trails though, and Firebreak 5. One of the things interesting about Tillamook, and I don't know if I haven't wheeled a lot of places. You've wheeled a lot more places than I have, so maybe this exists elsewhere. But out here at the Rubicon, we have the quote unquote gatekeeper, which isn't really much of a gatekeeper anymore. But the idea of a gatekeeper was that don't go on the Rubicon unless you can make it through here. Well, in Tillamook, and they've got these filters, and they call them filters.
Instead of a gatekeeper, it's a filter.
It's a filter.
Yep.
And what it is, like that trail you mentioned, airplane, which is the trail itself is fine, but there are a couple sections on airplane that are very difficult, right? So they don't want anybody going in there who can't make it through the filter. So the filter is a bunch of big bouldered rocks designed to filter you out. So you don't just go around like, well, I'm going on a dirt road. Oh, I'm going to turn left on this road. And, oh my God, now I'm stuck in some place, right? So pretty ingenious idea that they did. And it really says a lot to the fact that the OHV community up there is thinking about serving everybody. They want to let the dirt bikers up there and the side-by-sides up there and everybody up there doing the different things and the beater rigs, whatever. But we're going to create these ways of making sure that the wrong vehicle doesn't go down the wrong obstacle.
Yeah,
like somebody doesn't accidentally go down Black Bear Pass because they shouldn't, right?
Right. There should be a filter on every trail. I mean, I think that is, like you said, what a great way to kind of go, hey guys, if you can't do this, you probably shouldn't be in there. The problem is that the filters become this huge hung up staging area where people are trying to get through a filter, even though the trail might not be that difficult, or as difficult. There's going to be some spots, and I think as the Jeep clubs, and a shout out to those guys in Oregon. I mean, the Jolly Jeepers and whatnot that do a lot of that trail maintenance. How do you construct a set of obstacles that will be representative of the rest of this trail to keep for people to understand? Because people are going to be challenged by the filter and go, oh, I can do it. And then if they struggle getting through the filter,
the filter itself, the filter itself becomes an object. It becomes the challenge. It becomes the next challenge for it. Yeah.
Yes.
That's interesting.
Yes.
Well, it's just what it was like for us in 2019, right? We were going through the filter. None of us were going to go up airplane and go up the big trail.
Right.
But we wanted to go through it. So they took us through the bypass, right? But it was still, we spent an hour at least getting through the filter, getting all the rigs through the filter. Then we went up and did it. And then we had a filter at the other end too, because you've got two filters, one on either side, on the way in and on the way out. On the way out was a lot easier. On the way in was pretty hard one. That was pretty difficult. But again, everything was wet and a little bit different too in the environment. But so it's
definitely an example of weather conditions playing a rating issue on these trails. I mean, when things are wet, a 5 can become a 7, or a 7 become a 9. Things can become unpassable,
right?
If there's enough water and moisture. Yeah.
Well, and tires play a role, right?
Yes.
I mean, they play a huge role in how you do through stuff, and whether or not you're using lockers and all that other fun stuff. Because Corey got mad at me. I was out there. I wasn't running lockers, and he had to give me his 5-minute spiel about not tearing up the trail. Like, use your lockers so you don't tear up the trail. Yes, we were gonna bring this up, and I was gonna talk to you about it, because you and I actually had a tense moment there where you kind of looked at me and I looked at you, and I'm like, yeah, really, and it's kind of funny, that whole aha moment when the both of us were like, oh yeah, this is that whole practice what you preach thing. Like, we kind of went, yeah, okay, we're going to move on from here, and we'll be fine. But, and again, in an area where rocks move around and stuff, we talk a lot about land use, and it's really, really hard to, especially in areas where things change. Winter, having whether it's snow slides or runoff change rocks, and we think about tearing up a trail as spinning tires and digging holes and all that, where that's not what any of us do. We as modern Jeepers don't do that yet. There's a fine line there where, hey man, we're driving up a dirt road and I did it all in 2-wheel drive. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. It's that whole, I stood on the accelerator pedal in 2-wheel drive and
I was pretty sure I could throttle out of this thing, but
Right.
I couldn't. Now that's the problem, right?
Well, and that was the thing about the lockers, right? Like I was trying to do. It's just it's like going through the Rubicon. The game is to go as how far can you go on the Rubicon without turning on your lockers, right?
Yep.
And I've managed to make it all the way to and then stupid thing, 1 year going all the way through the Rubicon, never doing the lockers. It was in the TJ, and until going up Cadillac Hill, and I had to put a stupid lockers on a stupid route, a tree route.
Right. Yeah.
I couldn't get over this damn tree root for some stupid reason. So, but it is that game. So you're playing that game and not lockers on. And the realization though is like you still have to be responsible. And the responsible thing is the moment you start spinning tire, you stop. If you can go and crawl a little bit and get a little bit going, but you also made a good point, which is like you think about it. When I say spinning tire, what do you think? You think, well, you're getting a few rotations of tire. All it takes is one little slip. Like it just takes the tire spinning a half a turn and it's still a spin. And sure, that's what happens most of the time. Like you get a half a turn spin and then something grips and you go. But that half a turn spin actually starts doing a little tear up on its own, right? It makes it different for the next one. That being said, Mother Nature creates more chaos in that area than we ever can. Far. But
now it's the guy going through with 42 because that's the new 37 apparently, and right. Now I don't even have to know how to drive less. I can have a 42-inch tall tire and I can dig these massive holes that nobody will ever get through on 35s. Well, cheers right. To you, buddy. Like, yeah, that's not the right way.
No, it isn't. And that's the problem. But you get out there and have fun. It was, again, amazing. Love the group of people. We'd wrapped up Saturday night. We had our dinner. We'd usually do a awards ceremony. I will say, I think at least 2 of our attendees were being sold on doing 392s. We have great support. And the way these ModernJeeper Adventures work is it's like any of our ModernJeeper Adventures. We try to bring together a local who is really good at the area, and and they guide us, right? So Lee is in charge from Jolly Jeepers on Saturday because the Jolly Jeepers really know the mountains. And then John Mock is our guy on Friday when we do the sand, because that's what he loves. I mean, he has a 392. It's cloaked out. He's got all kinds of stuff on it, and that's what he loves. He loves the sand dunes. So that's what we do. We set now. The guys that did a great job, and John Mock was from the Salem Jeepers. There was a whole shake up in the Salem Jeepers world. So now he's in the OG SJ, I think it is the OG Salem Jeepers, right? Something so it's a new club that was formed of the original group of good people that didn't want to play in the drama of what's happening with that club. So great people, of course. And then Debbie D's great with her stuff. The landowner out there, he has just done a phenomenal job. This place that we do it is a former Christmas tree farm. And it's just incredible, just like all being able to do all this stuff, be out in the middle of it. And it was so quiet. Like, even though there were cars running through, like 4 or 5 in the morning, still all night, there's cars running by. You can't really tell. It's super quiet. It's beautiful. The skies are open. I mean, it's a great place to camp. And then Sunday morning comes around. We get our donuts and coffee. And now I was in the jail. And we had to load all the canopies back on the JL, table on the JL, ice chest in the JL, all the stuff that was supposed to be bringing.
Let's talk about this because this is huge. So Matson shows up with the red MetalCloak JL, and he's got a marine size cooler that he used to bring up so we could have participants have ice and soda and beers and drinks at the event. So it's a marine size cooler that takes up the entire back seat if you were to put it in there lengthwise. He also brought up 4 canopy frames, a couple of tables.
3 tables.
3 tables. So these are 8-foot fold in half style tables that we take to our events. Jessy and I, we went through MetalCloak and we were trying to help Matson get ready for the trip up in the RV, knowing that he had tons of room in the RV. so we could load into that thing anything that we needed or wanted. Well, with the RV issues, so he had to load all this from his house in Lincoln City into the JL 4-door red Jeep. And I gotta tell you,
we had 10 flagpoles. We
10
had
flagpoles.
we had a tote full of flags and posts and other stuff. We had 10 sand flags.
Yeah, right.
The 10 flat. So yeah, all that stuff was. We're both going to cough at the same time here. 1, 2, 3, cough. Right. We had all this stuff loaded in. So the jail looked. Now, what's interesting, I'll tell a little story once we get to the point of like my return back to Sacramento. What happened with that was nothing. Like, it was one thing having 4 canopies on top and a single table strapped down, right? That was easy. And then we had the ice chest inside and all that kind of stuff. So it was good. Everything worked out fine. We got that stuff all loaded back in, and Sunday morning. By the way, a huge shout out to Heidi and her guy Jeff, right? For they brought out a 20 by 30 tent. It was awesome. Big round tables all set up. This is stuff that in the past we had just rented, but it's so hard to do that out there now that it was just like these guys stepped up and they brought out the equipment themselves.
We've never realized in the past until we were actually, Jessy and I were driving into the event, and I'm like, well, there's our tent. There's our tent. Every other block, I'm like, well, there's our tent. So when Jessy first started looking for our tent people, the same people we've used in the past, literally they were like, well, we have another tent, but we don't have any people. And we're like, wow, that's really odd, because it's never been that big of an issue. And all of a sudden this year, oh, guess what? This is near 4th of July weekend. Guess what all the fire stand or the fireworks stands use as their business centers? All of our tents. So yeah, we were kind of pressured this year to go, we can't secure a tent. If they would have given it to us, well, those big circus tents, we can't set that up. Right. They have 55-gallon drums of water and big giant sledgehammer, type stakes and stuff. So yeah, shout out to Heidi and Jeff. They actually went and bought a tent to bring, and it took 4 or 5 of us to set it up and take it down, but it was awesome.
Well, it was great when I showed up. It was already up. You guys, you guys got it all set up, and then our attendees. I mean, this is amazing. This is what I've said before. What makes ModernJeeper Adventures great are the people that attend it. And here are our guests. They hung around to help tear down the tent. Like, they had their donuts, they had their coffee, they started putting away tables, they tore down the tent. I mean, I would never have asked them to do that, but they weren't going to leave. They weren't going to leave. They were like hanging out, and I'm like, this is kind of odd. You guys, you're free to go. And they're like, well, we'll stay and help. Like, we can help take down the tent and stuff. And I'm like, oh, okay. Wow. Yeah, it was pretty cool. So, yeah, that was, so you guys from there. So from there, I go off back to Lincoln City. You guys load up and you go off to from Tillamook, Oregon to Bend, Oregon, which is south. For those who don't know, it's southeast. And you hook up with some guy named Martin.
Yeah. So here it was really kind of odd, because we leave Tillamook, we head back to Bend, stayed in a nice hotel. We needed a hotel after we'd been camping at that point for 5 nights, so we kind of needed a shower a little bit. And Martin, Milestar Tires, XPDN 4 kicks off the following Monday. So I didn't even hear from you yet at this point. I knew the RV was not okay. And I knew we were going to be in and out of service for a while. So we take off on Monday morning from Bend, Oregon, and then we're literally again on another adventure for 4 days. And what an amazing experience that has been. Our followers can reach out And if you just follow the hashtag XPDN4 or look for any of the Milestar Tires Adventures pages, information is slowly, again, I've been home for 2 days. I'm still in recovery mode myself. I'm still doing laundry. I'm not even sure this is my house. But we're slowly going through all of the images, and folks are doing a good job of getting that information out there. It was an amazing experience, and we'll probably talk more about that event in next week's episode. But to kind of rewind into the middle, where Matson is having to deal with the RV, he's in Lincoln City. He doesn't live in Lincoln City. He has a house there. Everything he knows in his home is in Sacramento, and all he has is a 4-door JL that is operating. We mentioned about all that had to get loaded up into the JL. Well, his family is still in Lincoln City. So
right. So I get back to jail. I get back there, I get the jails. And in fact, I left the 4 canopies, like literally the whole entire week they were in Lincoln City. The 4 canopies stayed on top of the jail, right? I just got them strapped down, which, by the way, held in place by 2 Perfect Bungees. If you guys don't know Perfect Bungees, this is my product endorsement of the year. Perfect Bungees are amazing. I've got them. I've got a set, they're always with the JT. These were a couple that I grabbed out of Mike's TJ, because I literally was like, I come to
awesome.
like, yeah, I'll just grab them, throw them up there, and they held, so I held the 4 canopies up on top of it, sitting on top of an ARS rack with our low profile RTT tent system. It worked out perfect. Little product endorsements there. So, while you guys were off having fun, driving through Lincoln City, by the way, because I saw you came through Lincoln
Right?
City on their way up to Pelican Brewing and all the fun stuff that they were doing, while I was having fun with my family, because we actually, I got one of these portable. It's a really cool little thing. It's a portable badminton set, and it comes in a case. Right, it comes in a case. So I'll have to put a product link on the show notes, but it comes in a case. You open it up, and it has 2 poles that extend out. Now, usually badminton comes up out of the ground, right? Well, this one comes out in a U shape. So the poles actually sit into the case and then bend up, because they're flexible enough that you then put the net on it. And the case contains 4 rackets and 2 birdies. I got it on Amazon. You threw it in the backyard. The kids loved it. Like, they played badminton I had to buy extra birdies because, there's fences and roofs and other things and trees. And it turns out that, birdies and trees do not like to come back down. So, I had to buy extra shuttlecocks. But it was just a fun little thing. So we're having fun with the kids, but all the time there, we're trying to figure out this RV. Finally got it. We have Good Sam, and they got it towed over. They did a great job. Got it towed to a local shop that was recommended to us. He's got it now. We've been texting, get it fixed. But that was the point. He has it now. There was no way it was going to be done in time to drive back. So Corey mentioned all the stuff I had. So I had all this stuff. So I had 2 different things. I could either just leave all the personal stuff there, load, let's be clear, load 3 kids, 4 dogs, and 2 adults into the JL. Now, that would have been an interesting experiment for a 9-hour drive. However, I think by the end of the 9-hour drive, somebody would go mad, and it would either be me or my wife, because the kids, but one of us would have gone mad. So my proposal was, all right, here's what we're going to do. So I loaded in a bunch of canopies, a bunch of the stuff and a bunch of stuff that needed to be into the jail. Loaded 1 child into the jail, got in the driver's seat, and at Friday, because we had to be back here. In fact, the jail had to be back to MetalCloak by Saturday because it was going on the Rubicon on Sunday. So get back here, basically left Friday night, 5-6 p.m., something like that, and just drove 9 hours. Now, it was kind of funny when I pulled up at Tillamook. I had 4 canopies and 1 table on top of the Jeep. Well, I had to take some tables back with me, because they were used for other events here. So I had 4 canopies and 3 tables stacked on top of the JL, and they were stacked 3 on top of each other, strapped down. And I also put 2 of my Camprite camping chairs strapped on the back there too. So I had Now, the great thing is there's a great image of this, but that was such a wind stop that it is covered with every possible gnat it could find throughout that drive. But we made it down, got about 3:30 a.m., finally got back to the house, went to sleep, got up about 10 o'clock, cleaned out the JL, unloaded the stuff, ran over to the MetalCloak to unload it and get it over and hand over the keys to Aaron, who was to get it ready for the Rubicon the next day. And so that was all good to go. Jumped back in, got back home, unloaded the minivan and cleaned it up. Jack and I jumped to the minivan about 1 o'clock on Saturday and drove all the way back to Lincoln City in the minivan. Now, I like to say proudly that Google estimated that we left about 1 o'clock, that we'd be there about 10:40. By the time we got to Salem, we were on schedule to be there about 9:40. So I beat Google by about an hour, which perfectly safe driving, I'm sure. And we get there that night, get everything ready to go. And then the next morning packed up and then hopped in at about noon and drove back home. So minivan with 3 kids and 4 dogs is a much easier proposition than trying to do it in a jail.
So for our listeners, because I don't think that you told this story pretty quickly, like it's on Friday. So I get a call on Friday night. It's 10 o'clock at night Mountain Time. And I'm like, this is weird. Matson's calling. Jessy and I are in the Gladiator, and Matson fully expected for us to be home, which we had our own experience through the day because of a severe accident up on Soldier Summit outside of Salt Lake City. 2 Flight for Life helicopters. We counted 6 total ambulances. The pass was shut down for a number of hours. We ended up having to drive back down and go around. Anyway, what turned into what was going to be an 8-9 hour drive for us turned into about 14 and a half. But when he called at 10 o'clock, I said, he said, how you doing? And I said, I'm having a pretty crappy day. And he's like, really? Let me tell you about my day.
It was not.
I said, what are you doing?
A comparison.
He said, well, I'm driving back to Sacramento. This is Friday night. I'm driving back to Sacramento. I've got one of my kids. We're going to drive back to MetalCloak. This is Friday night. We're going to drive all the way back. It's about a 9-10 hour drive from Lincoln City to Sacramento. Friday night, I'm going to drive home, swap the Jeep for the minivan, drive back to Lincoln City on Saturday, load up the family with everything into the minivan, drive back to Sacramento on Sunday, and then it's all good. Like, we'll unwind this whole thing and we're all home.
30 hours of driving.
By the way, the RV is still in Lincoln City.
Right.
But the family and everybody else got home. And dude, kudos to you, because that's something that, like, that's one of those stories that you kind of go, yeah, remember when I drove for 36 hours and I don't remember what day it is anymore. And yeah,
it was fine. It was actually, I enjoyed driving that way, especially with Jack and I were going, because we were, it was a great road trip because we stopped, we got Happy Meals, we got milkshakes, we stopped at service stations and grabbed sodas and things, and we just had a fun time, right? But and Jack had my iPad the whole time with us, so you could watch whatever we wanted to watch with headphones on. I was listening to podcasts. I will say that the minivan has that same 3.6 that the Jeep has, but the minivan weighs a lot less, and so it has a top speed that's much different than a Jeep. And there were a couple times where I was experimenting with that top speed, just seeing how fast I can go. And it was all safe and good and fun, but that was kind of the fun part about it, was being able to do that. I didn't have to do most of the driving on the way back. My wife shared it, which is the great thing about taking the minivan versus the RV. She will not drive the RV. She will drive the minivan. So she kind of prefers that because she doesn't like my driving for some reason. She does the white grip on the handle, and she sees the brakes go on 4 car lengths ahead and says, "Look out!" So she's a very bad side seat driver. I love you, babe, but we don't do well together inside of a car. So I let her drive. It's fine. And then when she's driving, I just close my eyes so I don't have to see what's actually happening.
Well, I will say that for the off-road roader in our world, the modern Jeepers, Oregon is amazing, and
It is.
it's I think it's kind of a, you know what, I'm in the last 2 days I've spent a lot of time online reading a lot, and I think it's significant in the fact that everybody's feeling a little bit of the same of their people are starting to say, hey, maybe we shouldn't share so much. And hey, when my dad and I were there in the 70s, there was no people. And look at it now. It's either closed or it's overrun. So I hate to say, but of course, our followers, our group, I have higher expectations of because they're modern Jeepers.
Right.
So when I say that, Oregon is a place that they should go explore, they should, because I know you're gonna leave it in a better state than when you got there. But it's again, it's that variety where you can go out on the coast, and we were at low 50 degrees, some overcast skies, some cool weather, and you literally go an hour and a half inland, and it can be 100 degrees like that.
Right.
And then you have peaks out there that are 10,000 feet. You have lots of snow-capped mountains. You have lakes and trails and forests. And yeah, fires have done a number. But it's funny, and it's a lot like the state of Washington. The eastern section, the eastern half of both Washington and Oregon, they should have, instead of making those states horizontal, they should have made it diagonal. They should have been Oregon along the coast and maybe Washington next to it, the other direction, because they're literally so similar and completely different.
Yeah, night and day. Yeah, and it's interesting, the beauty of the area. There's little things like you see. There's a lot of clear cutting that happens in Oregon, right?
Yes.
But they do a fantastic job of managing that. They clear cut,
Yes.
they replant. You can see it. You can see the growth and new growth coming in, and they plant more trees than they cut down. But you see it, and you have better forest management than you do down here in California. So
Very
when they do have
much
a
so.
fire, they don't have they go through. A couple years ago, was it? It was about 2 years ago. I think it was 2020. There was actually a little bit of a scare in Lincoln City, Otis, because tens of thousands of acres burned through Otis, through almost into Lincoln City. They evacuated Lincoln City all down south to Newport. And there were a lot of homes and stuff lost in the Otis area, which is just northwest of Lincoln City. And that came, but that was just because it was a lot of side roads and stuff. But in general, they do a very good job of managing fires, of being on top of it when it happens, and managing the forest so that when it does happen, it's an easier thing to put out. Not like out here when the moments the fire happens. It's at 100 acres now, in 5 hours now it's 50,000 acres because it just spreads through.
Yeah,
right?
Jessy and I shot a quick little video, and I don't even know where I think I posted it on my Facebook page, about 963,000 acres that had burned. And again, you can find that on Facebook, but we can do things better, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna preach in this episode, but I think we can do things better, and that's in all aspects of the way we represent ourselves off-roading. I was just reading in our own San Juan mountains, there's been some thefts. There's been a guy that had his stuff stolen out of his Jeep at gunpoint. Like,
Oh, geez.
this is I mean, come on, guys, like that this isn't necessary. And people are being rude, and they're being angry out on the trails. That's not why we do what we do. So I'm hoping that we can do better. And as representatives for our industry, each of you, our listeners, are that person to
Sure.
say, hey man, this isn't the place. Like, let's resolve this either in a different manner or do better in how we're managing ourselves out on the trail. Because Yeah, otherwise, it's not going to be any fun. We were in Lincoln City, or we were in Oregon for such a short amount of time, really, about a week and a half, and we experienced everything from plains and near desert-like conditions to mountains and snowpacks and lakes to the coast to forests. I mean, there's such a diverse environment, and I think maybe people are struggling with how do they react to the different environments because people aren't used to that kind of thing. But again, we ended up in a winery as far as the XPDN adventure, a winery on the last night, Pacific Brewing in Pacific City out on the Oregon coast the day before. Such diversity within a few hours, and that's very unique. We can come and spend a week in Uray, and it's going to be a week in the mountains. There's no beach, there's no any of that. But I hope that folks go, man, the amount of people that are consuming our public trail systems needs to do better. And I hope that we're reaching out to some folks that go, you're right. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to interact with somebody who I don't think is doing things the right way. You know what? None of us like conflict, and don't get yourselves into trouble, but we need to educate. And I don't know how to do that
Well,
without being confrontational.
Well, it's interesting because we gave out, we always give out awards and give out gift certificates at ModernJeeper Adventure events. And this year we decided the top award was going to go to two different folks who demonstrated in true modern Jeeper fashion. They pulled over without any prompt from anybody. They pulled over in the sand dunes and just started picking up leftover fireworks.
Trash.
It was all trash. It was all from fireworks. It was all from 4th of July. It was just been a big pile of it. They're just picking it up and putting it in the rig. We always say take out more than you bring in, right? I found beer cans and threw them in the rig, and I always stop and put water bottles, all kinds of stuff that was out there in the sand dunes. And it could maybe some stuff that had fallen off of a rig, right? Or maybe but maybe it was just simply thrown out. Either way, we always take out. So we try to do that. Now, here's something I have an interesting idea, and maybe we can make this work. Corey and I'll figure out how to make this work. But we're going to do a little contest. But what it is going to be is you need to share a story. Share a story about something that somebody did on the trail that was a good example, that was being a great steward of the land, something like that. That you are going to nominate somebody else, right? This isn't about you. It's about nominating somebody who had it with a great story, and we'll put that stories out there. We'll figure out how to make this happening. So we'll talk about details on it at next week's podcast, and then we're going to put together a contest, gift certificates, that sort of thing for this. But I really want to see, I want to hear stories from other people of being great stewards on the land, or taking care of the environment, or doing something related that really shows that you truly are a modern Jeeper. That you're taking care of others, that you're helping others. And it could be as simple as you did something to help somebody else. You pulled alongside and stopped and took care of them and helped them out. Or it was like an example, like you picked up a bunch of trash or whatever it is. Let's hear these stories. Let's see, because I do truly believe that modern Jeepers are those kind of people. And I want to hear all the stories.
Yes. You know what? Yeah. Send us your story. Post it. Send Matson and I or an email, Corey at MetalCloak.com, Matson at MetalCloak.com. Send us your story.
I'm thinking I might use Social Monials is a software that I have.
Social Monials
is a software I have. And I've used it before for a testimonial contest where people submitted little videos. And I think we might use that same thing again. We can do these little video contests, and they all you do is do a little selfie. Just do a selfie video. Hey, so I want to nominate so and so and so and so, blah blah blah, and you post it up there. Easy to do. You can post it up your little vid, and it'll just go out there. And all those videos that get posted end up on our YouTube channel. So they'll be connected to the Modern Jeeper YouTube channel and sharing stories of people. And that's why I want to take all those, because then maybe we'll take all those stories and we will put together something about education, about being out there, about being involved. So we'll do this whole big thing. again, Corey and I will discuss some details, and we'll launch it officially next week. You feel free to send us any of your stories now, but the contest will start next week. We'll put together all the details, but let's just, I want to gather as many stories of people being good stewards and being good representative and being good modern Jeepers.
And for our listeners, I don't know if you guys all caught that just now, but here I was trying to make our lives much more complicated. And Matson was like, hey, wait, we can do this a different way. I've got a solution for this. And I'm thinking about, oh my gosh, we're going to get a bunch of emails now that we have to go through and we have to have a story. And like, yeah. So this guy, shout out to this guy who's always thinking a little bit beyond that, because he knows how busy we both are in our schedules and whatnot. We have so much going on, and man, there's still so much that I'd like to talk about versus the last couple of weeks. And
there's been craziness going on. I've been talking about, like, we did that Ram sale last week. I just want to say thank you to anybody who's listening. Thank you everybody for just proving out the idea. We put up a 50-20 sale on Wednesday, which was 20 kits at 50% off. And there's 20 of our Ram 4th gen and 5th gen kits at 50% off. That sale ended that day. Like, it got all taken care of that day. And then we launched the 4010. And that one took a couple of days to go through. And I actually think it actually went longer than it was supposed to, because I think we got a few extra kits sold there, because I just didn't want to touch it over the weekend and just wait until Monday morning to turn it off. But that one, 4010 sale, that was awesome. So it was really a launch of these kits, because we've had the 4th gen system for a while now, probably for about just over a year, but the 5th gen system just came out a few weeks ago. So it was really cool to have that and get all of you out there. And like, I saw a great post on one of the forums. I was happened to be reading a forum where a guy was talking about coil choices for his MetalCloak coil choices for his rig. His last post said, by the way, as a note, I just had my dad buy the MetalCloak suspension system for his 2500 diesel because of the special going on, right? Because of the special edition. So he was enough of a fan of MetalCloak that he was finally able to convince his dad to take on MetalCloak as well, right? And so I think just awesome. I really appreciate everybody for participating in that and really taking it. Now, little side note, what we didn't tell you is that every one of you who bought these kits, I expect a testimonial from. I will be on the phone with you. I will be calling you. We will be talking, and we will be getting a testimonial from you about it. And I want your feedback. I want your review, positive or negative. We want to hear from you and hear what you actually thought about the kit.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't know if our followers and listeners understand that I've had in the last couple of weeks, I've kind of stepped back into being able to actually see what MetalCloak has on in their production, and I got to tell you, it blows my mind. It's literally, we all think that gosh, Matson's just hanging out in Lincoln City, everybody's on the Rubicon, nobody's working, like things are getting done, and I don't know how that happens. It's all automated, of course, and you got to understand that there's a host of engineers that are back there working on new products all the time. And there's a lot. And I'm not going to tell you what's coming, but you guys are so loyal anyway that you understand that if there's an issue coming out and it's a significant issue in Jeeps or suspension products or anything like that, MetalCloak's probably got something that they're working on. Yeah, I'm.
By the way, I'm going to show something right now. I'm not going to say anything about what it is, and I'm just going to show it. And it's like this right here. You see this? And it's got a zipper.
For our folks on the podcast, it's a zippered case that has MetalCloak embossed in this zippered, pretty nice case. It's pretty cool.
I will say this. This itself is not the product. And we'll leave it at that.
Before we leave, I want to give a shout out to, again, the guys at MetalCloak. There's been a lot of controversy in the Gladiator stuff, and people are looking elsewhere for springs because everybody wants to overweight their Gladiator. I get it. There's not a company out there that manufactures a structure that fits in the bed of a Gladiator that keeps this thing. I don't care if that structure says it weighs 600 pounds. You're putting it in the bed of a Gladiator. Guess what? You're already pushing, even though the payload is 1,700 pounds, you load that thing up, you're overweight. You're doing it wrong. I had an instance where we were traveling through Salem, actually, and I had an emergency. Guy cut me off, stopped at a green light, basically in front of me at a stoplight, and I had to lock up the Gladiator. I am 7,400 pounds, which is about 150 pounds over GVWR. I locked that thing up. I think the rear tires came off the ground. I left skid marks on the pavement, all four wheels locked up 38s. I slid for probably 4 feet. I stopped. I didn't hit the guy, but it was the scariest thing that has happened to me. And literally, when the brakes went to the floor and Jeep's basically braking system took over, the fact that it could lock up 438s and slide me forward, I wasn't going that fast. But I'm overweight. I'm 7,400 pounds. When I got home and I unloaded everything except for the rooftop tent and the fridge, my rear springs only went back up about a half an inch versus fully weighted. So all you guys out there wanting to increase your carrying capacity and looking for other manufacturers' springs and whatnot so you can carry heavier loads, there's more to play. And I'm just telling you, be careful. Go to a scale. See what that thing weighs. We were wheeling with some amazing rigs on the trail during the Milestar event. And I asked every one of them, I'm like, how much you weigh? I don't know. Wow, because you're carrying a lot of really cool equipment and it looks amazing. But how much do you weigh? They didn't know. Go to a scale. Figure it out and lose the weight, because when you have to make an emergency stop, it's going to make a difference.
Yeah, it's an excellent point. It is interesting, this point that even though Jeep says the capacity is 16 or 1,700, when we first got the Gladiator in, we said, okay, good, let's see what happens when you throw 16 or 1,700 pounds. And it can handle it, but it squats like a pre-runner. It's not designed to be held up, right? Those coils in there aren't designed to hold 16. It's not a Super Duty. It's not some heavy setup, right? So it will squat. So when you start adding other dynamics in, you're adding more weight in, and you're trying to compensate by having different coils and different springs, you are changing the dynamics of the rig. You put its rooftop tent on, you're changing the center of gravity. There's all kinds of things. You need to be aware that your rig is now different than it was when it was stock. And it's not just different because it looks different. It actually will function differently. You have all that weight. Center of gravity plays a big role when you're sitting there slamming on your brakes. Right now, the rear, the ass end wants to go up because you have all the weight in the front. Let's get thrown forward, right? It is great. Well, I'm glad you didn't hit the guy, because that would not have been fun.
Me too. I literally felt like the Jeep it did very, very well. And knowing what I was carrying in the back, I'm like, wow, that's why. I mean, again, I figured, well, when I take everything out of there, it's going to be weird because I'm going to have this very much a visible rake to the Jeep, and I don't. And loaded, it doesn't squat down. So the newest MetalCloak JT rear springs, they're perfect in my mind. Like, you can load it down. Like, if I was heavier, which I'm assuming a lot of these other rigs are, yeah, that rear is going to squat. But guess what? You're overweight. I'm going to cut back. I'm going to cut down another 150 pounds out of this thing, because I believe in, well, I'm a little anal, and I think that I don't want to get sued, and I never want to put a company that I represent in a bad situation where, well, no, this is what we do. We overload our rigs and we hit people. No, that's not right.
Yeah, no. Well, I had that case with I did rear end somebody several years ago in Cloak 3. And what it is, you have this massive rig, it's 40-inch tires. You have, generally stopping power. Sure, you have at that time it still had the LS3 in it. And it was some guy in front of me. He was kind of weaving out of a lane like he was going to turn, and then he went forward, and then he started accelerating like he was going to beat the yellow light, and I was going to follow him, and then he slammed on his brakes last minute in a BMW. And I'd easily had 13, 14 feet ahead of us. And if you're thinking about the actual speed, we weren't going that fast, but I slam on the brakes. The vehicle, it slid. It was like a slow slide. It locked up, a slowed slide. The stinger hit the rear end of that BMW, started crushing it down, then like slowly smashed it down. Window blew out, all that. Rigs act differently when they're built, and you need to know your rig.
People that know me know that I'm one of the most probably cautious drivers. I know I annoy everybody that I'm ever in a group with because they know I'm going to be the slowest guy, and it's because I'm just like that. I'm old, so yeah. I mean, the fact that guy cut me off and I didn't expect it really freaked me out. And to know that I went through the ABS sensor, you can feel the initial stutter of the ABS, and then Jeep just says, nope, those calipers shut down and it locked up. Thank goodness. I mean, I was like, wow, that's cool that it did act the way it did. Jeep's doing its homework in that respect. But if I was even a couple 100 pounds lighter, I'd have probably been a lot better off. I wouldn't have slid like I did. I don't think I was going 35 miles an hour. Like we were coming up to a stoplight. But you never know when somebody's going to pull in front of you, and you have to act quick. With a heavier rig, those reaction times are gone. And if you hurt someone and that insurance company says, let's weigh that thing, and you're overweight, good luck. Because your insurance company will not stand behind you anymore.
Well, it's like counting the 400 pounds of people that were in there too. Oh wait,
right?
That's me. Man. Well, it's been another great episode, and this is fun. Always. Thanks all of our listeners for paying some time with us and hanging out with us and doing all that kind of stuff. As you know, you can reach out to me at Matson@MetalCloak.com. You can reach Corey at Corey@MetalCloak.com. And even though Jessy isn't here, you can still reach her at Jessy@MetalCloak.com. Check us out at ModernJeeperAdventures.com for all of our upcoming adventures. Death Valley will be going live here in the next few days. So that's our Death Valley, which is what week? It was at the November 18th around there or something like that?
Yeah, just after SEMA, the next couple of weeks we'll have that up, and hopefully folks will notice. Shout out to the guys behind the scenes at MetalCloak. We just migrated that website and our adventures website, the forum, all onto different servers. I got to tell you, for me on the back end, it's made a huge difference. So if you've been checking into ModernJeeper.com and you're like, well, there hasn't been a lot of updates because we kind of been holding off a little bit because of this new transition. But it should be a lot faster now. It is for me.
Now I expected. Now all of a sudden I've seen 2 new articles pop up all of a sudden today, and it's like, oh great! Now it's going to be like articles every day popping up because it's so much easier to use. I like it.
Yes.
Loading more pictures, more things.
Yes.
We do have Sierra Trek coming up. That is actually out here. It's Jeepers Jamboree is starting next week, and then after that is Jeep Jamboree, and it's the 70th anniversary of Jeepers Jamboree. Then this Jeep Jamboree, then Sierra Trek. Right after there, which we've talked about before in our episodes, and then we have Smoky Mountain Jeep Invasion, which, as you guys know, I will have 300 free T-shirts for Smoky Mountain Jeep Invasion. The first time we've done free T-shirts out there, so make sure.
Oh my gosh, this is such a busy month. We actually have All for Fun going on.
That's right, All for Fun.
So we'll try to if guys are wanting to get their flex on, please check out All for Fun down here in the Ridgeway Valley. We have after that it gets nuts. So Matson's talking about Smoky Mountain. Before that, we're going to rewind. We're going to go to Topless to Tatas, which we've never been to before.
Yeah, the trailer's been there, but you haven't.
Right, it's odd. Yeah, that was back in when Matson was making the tour. So
now
we have a whole bunch of stuff. Gosh, we have so much stuff coming up.
Used to leave it out in Mount Zion. Remember, because we said that you leave it in Mount Zion, make your way back across country, then go back and get it again and take it from. Yeah, that was. I
remember
insane.
Those days. Yeah.
By the way, we started a new project to get the cornertravelindex.com website back up and going. It'll be a simpler version than what it was before, but we were going to get corner travel index data on there. So I expect within a month, maybe two, we will have a searchable database for all of you guys out there that want to see the data that we have proclaimed does exist and all those sheets. So, all right. So lots of little things. We could probably talk for another hour or so, but for all of our modern Jeepers out there, love you all. Thank you for being a part of it. And again, look forward to next week when we talk about the new contest to share your stewardship of the trails. And we will see you on those trails.
Cheers.